Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Sports. And the Anton Dupont injury saga is heating up with Andrew Porter responding to Fabian Galtier's suggestions that he deliberately pushed Tyburn into the leg of Anton Dupont, which is what caused the French number 9 and captain to go over and rupture his ACL, which will see him miss the rest of the year, and the South African test with it. So it's been a pretty interesting few days with a lot of things being thrown around. And the big thing about these sort of incidents in terms of asking for sightings and potential bans and red cards, the whole thing is the precedent it sets. And that's why these incidents, need to be paid attention to. It's not just simple, oh yeah, well, it happens type of thing. Because if action is taken, it sets a precedent for what's to come. And we've seen it before, haven't we? Players who have gone over on their knees, for example, and they've ruptured, they had seriously injuries where players have not supported their weight, collapsed onto the knees and legs of other players and created some really bad injuries. And a lot of the time, fans have come out and said that they're doing it deliberately and that they're going out to try and target these players. So, for example, when Bongi Manambi was ruled out in the early minutes of the Springbok in the final of the World Cup, a lot of players saying that it was done very deliberately to try and injure him because they knew that they didn't have a natural good replacement. Deon Fourie was actually filling in. Bongi Manambi was arguably the most important player. So it's interesting how sort of this evolves because we see a similar incident happen on the weekend. Basically, what happened is that Anton Dupont, after a tackle, stood up and went back into the breakdown to try and steal the ball. Tyburn came in to clean him out, and Andrew Porter is just behind him, appears to sort of push him into the ruck. And so Tyburn ends up losing his footing, going over on the knee of Anton Dupont, whereupon the the French number 9, you can see clearly sort of pulls away in lots of discomfort and pain. He then had to leave the pitch, couldn't walk, in a lot of distress, and has since confirmed that it was an ACL injury. Now, afterwards, a very, very annoyed Fabian Galtier basically said that it was deliberate and said that he would be submitting it to the Saudi commissioner. And this is what he had to say. Where's I've just lost here. Here it is. So Fabian Galtier said that the Irish clear-out was reprehensible and said that there would be that they would be citing it. Basically, they would be sending the clip to the Saudi commissioner, or the Six Nations rather, to cite both Tyburn as well as Andrew Porter for possible retrospective punishments, such as a ban and the likes of that. It has been confirmed that they have not been cited. That obviously it was given to them, but they have obviously reviewed the footage and deemed there nothing to cite. Now, what was quite interesting is we saw Angus Gardner over the weekend come out and say during the match, unfortunately, sometimes injuries do happen, and that not, just because there's an injury doesn't mean that something illegal has happened. And I've always sort of maintained that, and I've always sort of wondered when it comes to, for example, the concussion or the HIA and banning protocols and the likes of that, the fact that the injury to the player falls into it. Because I've always said that the injury to the player should never come into any sort of banning sanction, because you can see perfectly legitimate tackles and challenges result in some horrendous injuries, and you can see some illegal challenges that don't, for example. And I always said, I think that it's not about looking at the consequence and then judging what the intent was. The intent is the intent, and the action is the action. What actually happens afterwards is irrelevant. Just because something that's done horrendously, illegally, for example, that didn't cause injury, doesn't suddenly mean that that's okay. Similarly, if you do something that is legal and completely legal and results in injury, you should not be punished for that. I don't think that the intent should be judged based on the outcome rather than what was the intent itself and what are the actions. I think that's kind of what's basically happened here. Is they've said the actual actions of it, the challenge, the clean out, there's nothing there with intent to injure worth citing. And Andrew Porter's come out and said quite flippantly that he's done nothing wrong. And he said over here, so this is his quote, he said he had no malicious intent. He said he can say what he wants, see how far it gets, and talking about Galtier. He said, no, I wasn't disappointed with Saudi Commissioner. I said, I knew what I did. I didn't go out to try and injure anyone. That's the type of player I am. If he, Galtier, wants to think that, that's up to him. I even sent Anton a message on Instagram just to see how he was. And obviously, you never want to see anyone going off the pitch like that. If you have the head coach calling for your head, it's a bit much to be fair, but he's such a pivotal player for them that they nearly don't want him to be touched at all. Look, he's entitled to his opinion, but I know I haven't done anything wrong there. I sleep well at night. What's quite interesting about this whole thing is that it's really highlighted the Irish breakdown, which there are a lot of people been calling about what goes on at the breakdown. And Ireland have been very, very clever with some of the antics they have with the breakdown. Not to say that all of them are dangerous, for example, but we've already seen this year Ty Byrne being penalised for holding somebody in at the ruck, which creates the gaps in the defence. And Ireland have always been quite a good team at being able to exploit the fringes of the breakdown and kind of operate in some of the grey areas. Now, this incident in particular has highlighted what goes down at Irish breakdowns. And what will be interesting from now is to see how they adapt to it and whether they need to sort of change the way they approach the breakdown, because there's going to be a magnifying glass on it moving forward, given this instance. So that's why I talk about the precedent. If something like this happens, yes, they've not been cited, there's no ban. However, referees now will be looking at that when it comes to Ireland, and they'll be looking at teams where players do lose their weight and collapse their weight on the knee, which is something that they have outlawed. Similar with the croc roll and the whole works, because it is incredibly dangerous. Let me know if you think this will have any impact. Whose side are you on? Do you think Fabian Galtier's got a point? Do you think it was just an accident? What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.